all kinds of people were coming out to get near to Jesus so that they could listen to him. And many of those coming out to Jesus were tax collectors and sinners. People who were known, proven dishonest, known, proven immoral. People whose lives were a mess, whose lives were wrong, whose lives were destructive. And as all these people are coming out, the other group of people that we call in the Bible the scribes and the Pharisees were grumbling. He welcomes these people. The Pharisees and the scribes, you hear about them if you come to very many church sermons, you know. But the Pharisees and the scribes, let's understand and why they grumbled. Because they were sincere people who wanted to love God and please God. And the way that they sought to do that was to set a very, very high bar. You had to know all the 613 commandments written in the first 5 books of the Torah. You had to not only know them, but you had to know by heart. You had to know the writings of the prophets. You had to know the writings of the people, the histories. So you had a very high intellectual level that you had to attain to join the church of the Pharisees. And you had to have a proven moral life. You had to be a person of integrity and keep those laws that you memorized. And they spent a lot of time and energy debating the finer points of some of those laws, because some of them are big but hard to figure out. And some of them are tiny and hard to figure out. And they would have a lot of discussion because they wanted to get it right. They wanted to honor God. And so they look at Jesus, who could have been one of them. He was brilliant. He was devout. He was pure. But he doesn't come to them. Instead, he goes out to the crowds and he takes their high bar and he, to them, throws it in the mud. He welcomes anyone. He sits down and eats, which implies acceptance. He accepts anyone. And yes, people were going out to him in very large numbers, and especially the broken and the lost. But Jesus doesn't argue with the Pharisees. He gives them a picture, actually kind of a stereo picture, 2 images of lost. The lost sheep and the lost coin. And what they have in common, they're both lost. But they are valuable. Everyone in that culture knew how valuable a commodity, even a single sheep was. And they knew that he was right, that a shepherd would leave his flock with other shepherds and go and find a sheep that's lost, because not only is it valuable, but a domestic sheep, if it doesn't know where the herd is and doesn't hear its shepherd, it's not going to find itself. It's going to stay lost. It will probably perish rather quickly. And so you're going to find it. It's valuable. And the coin is valuable. It's a silver coin. It's probably a woman looking for one of 10. That was a common dowry. It represented the kind of wealth of your family you brought with you into your new family, your new home. And a silver coin is valuable. So it's symbolically valuable and economically valuable. And you know what it's like when you lose something you really, really want. You're going all around the house, looking everywhere in drawers and cupboards. And you want everybody else in the world to look with you. And then I found it. That's how valuable these things are. And so Jesus is looking at his brothers, the Pharisees and scribes, and he's saying, you want to honor and please God, and you try so hard. how much pleasure does it give our Father when we find for him something that is lost? Because these people are so much more valuable than the sheep that we would look for, and a coin we would look for. Our Father values every single person, and he wants them back if they're lost. He wants them if they're broken and if they're wrong. And so people were coming to him because it wasn't like the church of the Pharisees, and you have to be really, really, really super, super good to belong. They were coming to him because he was talking to them about this Father who values them. And yes, the bar is right on the ground where you are. That's where you start. And Jesus doesn't say to these broken, lost people, just stay where you are. Continue to be dishonest. Continue to lead an immoral life, and a hurtful life, and a destructive life. No. But what he's really saying to them is, come and know this loving, gracious Father, and let his heart for you heal you. Welcome the Spirit. Let it begin to restore you. Let the heart of God come to you, because he wants to be with you. You can have a relationship with him. You don't have to be perfect first. And you will grow in this life. You will grow in this way. And it's beautiful, because you will become a person who gives mercy and forgiveness. And it makes God's heart so glad to see that. We have another interesting picture given to us today, which is of the super Christian St. Paul, who wrote all the letters in the Bible, in the New Testament, was a missionary all over the Middle East, spreading the news about Jesus. Before he was a super Christian, he was a super Pharisee. He was the best of the best of the best. And he was so zealous to keep his religion pure that he was persecuting these new Christians who didn't have it right. And we know the story, many of us, how Jesus came to him, the risen Christ came to him and said, why are you persecuting me? And he realized, I thought I was way up here, and I realized, you know what I really am? I'm a lost, violent persecutor. I'm hurting people. I'm a sinner. I'm lost and broken. And did he strike me down? Well, he knocked me off my high horse of righteousness, but he gave me his mercy. He gave me his love and grace. And then he became the super ambassador of mercy and forgiveness and grace. So today, we come. And we come to celebrate this life. Bringing Aiden today. Still hanging in there. My friend is hanging in. We're bringing Aiden because we want Aiden to come here and listen to Jesus. We want Aiden to know he is welcome to eat with Jesus. That the mercy and graciousness of the pure one is open to us, poured out upon us. Because, you see, Paul learned that he was never going to reach that bar. His last letter he ever wrote to the Romans, in it he says in chapter 7, I don't understand myself and my own actions. The very good thing that I know and I want to do, I didn't do it. And the very evil, wrong thing that I know I don't want to do, I find that I do that. Wretched man that I am, who can deliver me from this death? And then he says, thanks be to God for Jesus Christ, who welcomes me, who pours himself out for me, who redeems me. I am growing, and I am met by grace and forgiveness. And so we are people who come to be met by grace and forgiveness. And we know we are people who need to keep on growing, keep coming back where we're broken, Keep coming, honestly. Because that's who our God is, the loving God who values us, values it, and will grow our hearts to be like His. Come near and listen, is what He says. And one more thing. If you know someone who is broken, who is struggling, who is lost, then you can say to them, come to me, come with me, because I know a place where you can come. Because I go there. I go there with my struggle. I go there with my brokenness. And I'm welcome at the table. And I come to listen to the one who tells me about the Father who loves me. May we be that place, because that place is the church of Jesus Christ. And it's not the church of the Pharisees. And into that faith, and that hope, and that love, we're going to baptize 80